Ethan Hale was not a soldier. He was not trained to fight, nor did he have the strength of those who carried plasma rifles into battle. He was an engineer, a human repairman, born on a quiet world far from the front lines. Yet now he found himself walking the steel halls of a warship that belonged to the most feared warrior race in the galaxy. The ship trembled softly under his boots, the hum of alien engines surrounding him. Tall figures with scaled skin and golden eyes moved past him, their armor glinting in the pale blue light. They hardly glanced at him, and when they did, their stares carried the same silent question. Why is a human here? Ethan kept his tool case close to his side and tried not to stare back. He knew he was out of place. The Coalition had brought him aboard only because humans were good at solving problems quickly. Where other races followed rules and traditions, humans tended to improvise. That was the only reason he had been chosen, because sometimes improvisation saved lives. A guard led him to a large chamber. The doors opened and Ethan froze. Inside stood Queen Sarathis, the legendary warrior queen of the Cathari people. Stories about her filled the Coalition's records, how she had led armies into impossible battles, how her voice could inspire soldiers across 1,000 warships, how she never showed fear. She was taller than any human, her presence heavy like gravity itself. She wore battle armor the color of midnight steel, its surface scarred by countless strikes. Yet something about the armor looked wrong. Sparks flickered along one side and faint cracks glowed with a dim light. The guard bowed deeply and left Ethan alone. The queen turned her golden eyes on him. "You are the human repairer," she said, her voice low but sharp like a blade cutting the air. "Yes," Ethan managed. His throat felt dry. "Ethan Hale, I was told your armor needs fixing." Sarathis gave a slow nod. "It was damaged in the last battle. My own engineers failed to mend it. The Coalition insisted on sending you." Ethan swallowed. He could feel her doubt. She did not believe in him. Still, he stepped forward, kneeling near the damaged plates. He opened his tool case and carefully studied the armor. It was unlike anything he had seen before. Most armor was metal and energy shielding, but it pulsed faintly as if alive. The cracks spread like veins, and the glow from within reminded him of a heartbeat. "This is not just metal," Ethan whispered. The queen's gaze sharpened. "You notice quickly. Good work then. But be careful." He nodded and began. His hands moved with steady skill, examining broken connectors and energy lines. He used scanners, checked circuits, and replaced damaged nodes. Every time he thought he understood the design, it surprised him with hidden layers. Living tissue woven into steel, energy channels shaped like arteries. It was armor, yes, but it was also part of her. Hours passed in silence, broken only by the soft sounds of his tools. The queen stood still, watching him as if testing his courage. At last, Ethan reached a section near her side where the cracks were deepest. His scanner beeped rapidly, showing unstable energy flows. Without thinking, he reached out to adjust a glowing line with his tool. The moment his hand touched the spot, a sudden force clamped around his wrist. Ethan gasped. The queen had seized him with her armored hand, her grip like iron. Her golden eyes blazed. "Not there," she said, her voice low and dangerous. "Never touch it." Ethan froze, his heart racing. I'm sorry. "I didn't know." "You do not understand what lies beneath that place," Sarathis said, holding him firmly. "No human, no Qatari, no one touches it." "Do you hear me?" "Yes," Ethan whispered. For a long moment, she did not release him. He could feel the power in her hand, the warning in her stare. Then slowly she let go. Ethan pulled his wrist back and rubbed it nervously. His mind raced with questions. What was hidden there? Why was it so important? The queen turned slightly away as if to end the subject. "Continue your work, but never again place your hand upon that part of the armor." Ethan hesitated. Part of him wanted to ask, but the weight of her voice silenced him. He returned to his tools, focusing on other sections. Still, curiosity burned inside him. He had seen strange designs before, but nothing like this. That one hidden place seemed alive, almost sacred. When he finished repairing what he could, the cracks closed and the sparks died out. The armor's glow steadied, though the forbidden section remained untouched. "I did what I could," Ethan said quietly. "It should hold for now." Sarathis examined her armor. She flexed her arm, shifted her shoulders, and then finally looked back at him. "You have skill," she admitted. "More than I expected from a human." Ethan gave a small, nervous smile. "Thank you, Your Majesty." But she added, her voice sharp again, do not mistake skill for permission. You are allowed to touch what I allow. Nothing more. I understand, Ethan said quickly. The Queen studied him for another long moment, then turned away. Leave. Your task is done. Ethan packed his tools and bowed slightly before stepping out of the chamber. His heart was still pounding. As he walked back through the halls, he replayed the moment in his mind. The sudden grip on his wrist, the burning intensity in her eyes, the words never touch it. What was so dangerous about that part of her armor? Why was it forbidden? The other soldiers in the corridor looked at him with suspicion, whispering among themselves. He ignored them. His thoughts were elsewhere. Humans were known for asking questions, for refusing to let mysteries remain buried. Ethan knew he should obey, that he should never go near that forbidden place again. But something inside him whispered that the secret of the Queen's armor was more than just a personal matter. It felt bigger, like a truth hidden from the galaxy itself, and Ethan Hale, a simple human engineer, had just brushed against it. The hum of the alien warship carried through the halls as Ethan Hale returned to his small quarters. He sat on the edge of his narrow bunk, staring at his wrist where Queen Sarathis had gripped him. The mark was not visible, but he could still feel the memory of her strength. Her words echoed in his mind. Not there. Never touch it. He had repaired much of her battle armor, but that single moment would not leave him. Why was that one place forbidden? Why had her voice carried not only warning, but also fear? Humans were known for curiosity, and Ethan was no different. Yet he also understood danger. If the Queen had reacted so strongly, then whatever secret lay within her armor was more than a simple weakness. It was something deeper. The next morning, the ship shook with activity. Alarms rang faintly in the distance, not the sound of attack but of readiness. Soldiers hurried through the corridors, their tall armored forms moving with perfect discipline. Ethan was summoned again, though not by the Queen directly. 2 guards escorted him into a chamber where alien engineers worked around glowing consoles. The air smelled faintly of ozone, and the walls shimmered with energy diagrams. One of the engineers, a Kethari male with dark scales, pointed at Ethan. You are the human, he said with a tone that carried doubt. Yes, Ethan replied, keeping his voice steady. You touched the forbidden place yesterday. Ethan's chest tightened. It was a mistake. I didn't know. The alien's eyes narrowed. Be glad she spared you. Others would have ended your life for less. The guards shifted uneasily, but no one moved closer. The engineer leaned toward him. The Queen's armor is not simply armor. It is her bond with the Kethari people. It holds within it something sacred. Humans cannot understand this. Ethan listened carefully. The engineer's words gave a clue, but not the full truth. If it's sacred, he asked slowly, then why let me near it at all? The engineer hissed a sound of disapproval. Because the coalition forced it. The Queen does not need your kind. But sometimes politics demand compromise. Ethan nodded, though his mind worked quickly. Sacred armor. A forbidden place. Something hidden beneath metal and living tissue. He wanted to ask more, but the engineer had already turned away, ending the conversation. Later that day, Ethan was summoned again to the Queen's chamber. The doors opened, and there she stood, her armor repaired in most places, but the forbidden section still untouched. Her golden eyes studied him carefully. You repaired what others could not. The armor holds steady now. I'm glad, Ethan said. But I saw your eyes yesterday, she continued. You are curious. You wish to know what lies beneath the forbidden place. Ethan hesitated. To lie would be foolish. Yes, he admitted softly. I can't help wondering. I don't mean disrespect. I only want to understand. The Queen was silent for a long time. Finally, she stepped closer, her towering presence casting a shadow over him. To understand is dangerous. Even my own kind do not look upon it. It is a bond between me and the core of my people. If it breaks, I break. Do you see now? Ethan's heart quickened. Then it's not just armor, it's alive. Her eyes narrowed. Alive, yes. It is the heart core, forged by the first queens, passed down through generations. It carries the strength of our ancestors and binds me to my throne. Without it, I'm nothing. Ethan felt the weight of her words. The heart core was not only a piece of technology, it was history, power, and identity. No wonder she had seized his wrist so fiercely. I understand, he said quietly, and I won't touch it again. Sarathis studied him, searching his face for signs of deceit. At last she nodded. Good. For your sake, keep your word. That night, Ethan could not sleep. He turned in his bunk, staring at the ceiling. He now knew what the forbidden place was called, the Heart Core, but he still didn't fully understand it. Why would the Queen allow such a vital weakness to exist at all? Could it be attacked? Could it be repaired? Humans had a saying, the more forbidden a secret, the greater the reason it matters. And Ethan had the feeling that one day soon, that forbidden secret would test him again. His prediction came faster than he expected. 3 days later, alarms blared across the warship. Red lights flashed along the corridors. Soldiers rushed to their stations. The ship had come under sudden attack. Ethan grabbed his tool case out of instinct, though he knew tools would not help against enemy fire. He hurried through the chaos, trying to find a safe place. A deep voice rang out across the hall. Human, with me. It was one of the Queen's guards. He pulled Ethan along, leading him toward the throne chamber. When they arrived, Sarathis was already there, her armor glowing faintly. But Ethan noticed something. The repaired sections held firm, yet the forbidden place near the heart core flickered with unstable energy. The Queen turned sharply toward him. Ethan Hale, you said you would not touch the forbidden place. But now the heart core falters and I cannot fight with it weak. Ethan froze. You want me to fix it? No, she snapped. Then her tone softened, though it still carried steel. I want you to stand ready. If the heart core fails, I must still lead, and you will bear witness. Ethan didn't understand. Witness what? That even if I fall, my people's spirit will not, she said. Her voice was calm, but her eyes betrayed something rare, fear. Before Ethan could reply, the ship shook violently. Enemy fire ripped against the shields. Warriors shouted outside the chamber. The Queen lifted her great blade and prepared to join the fight. Ethan's heart pounded. He could see the unstable glow in her armor, could almost hear the flicker of the heart core within. She might be the strongest warrior in the galaxy, but even she could fall if her armor failed. And he, a simple human engineer, was the only one close enough to help. The battle raged for hours. Explosions thundered through the halls. Ethan stayed near the Queen, watching as she led her soldiers with unshakable courage. Her blade struck down enemies, her voice commanded order, and her presence kept hope alive. Yet Ethan's eyes never left the faint glow at her side. Each time the armor took a blow, the forbidden place shuddered. The Queen fought on, but Ethan could tell she was pushing against limits. Finally, during a pause in the battle, Sarathis turned to him. Sweat glistened on her scaled brow, though her face remained strong. Do you see now, human? This is why I warned you. The heart core is both strength and weakness. Ethan's voice shook. Then let me help, please. If it fails, you'll... Her hand shot up, silencing him. No. To touch it without the right bond could destroy me instantly. That is why I forbade it. Ethan clenched his fists. Logic told him to obey, to respect her command. But his human instinct, his stubborn will to protect, whispered otherwise. He did not know how or when, but he felt certain that soon he would have to make a choice, whether to respect the Queen's command or to risk everything by breaking it. And in that moment, the fate of both human and alien might depend on his decision. The warship shuddered as another blast struck its shields. The corridor lights flickered, and the air trembled with the roar of alien cannons. Ethan Hale gripped a handrail to steady himself. Around him, tall Cathari warriors rushed past, their heavy boots pounding against the steel floors. Queen Sarathis stood at the center of the throne chamber, her towering form wrapped in scarred armor. The unstable glow near the heart core pulsed faintly, a reminder of its weakness. Ethan's gaze lingered on it, worry heavy in his chest. The Queen noticed. Do not stare at it, she said firmly. Look at me, human. Ethan forced his eyes upward. Yes, Your Majesty. Her golden eyes locked on him. You wish to help. You wish to mend what even my own people fear to touch. But this is not a place for tools. This is a place for warriors. If you think you have courage, then prove it. Ethan swallowed hard. How? By standing at my side, Sarathis said. She reached down and held out a smaller blade, still large in his human hands but light compared to her great sword. You will be my armor-bearer. You will carry this, and when the battle comes, you will not hide. Ethan stared at the weapon. He had never fought in his life. He was an engineer, not a soldier. His hands were skilled with wires and circuits, not blades. But something inside him refused to back away. The Queen was testing him, and humans were not known for giving up when challenged. He took the blade. His grip was clumsy, but he held it tight. "I'll stay," he said. The Queen gave a sharp nod. "Good. Then watch and learn." The enemy struck again, their ships boarding the warship with brutal force. Explosions echoed through the halls, followed by the clash of steel and the cries of battle. The Queen strode forward, her presence like a storm. Ethan hurried after her, clutching the blade in both hands. The first enemy they encountered was a towering soldier of the rival empire, clad in spiked armor and carrying a massive weapon. He roared and charged. Ethan froze, fear rooting him in place, but the Queen did not hesitate. She swung her great sword in a blur, striking the enemy's weapon aside and sending him crashing to the ground. The fight was over in seconds. "See?" she said, glancing back at Ethan. "Strength, skill, and will. That is battle." Ethan nodded quickly, though his legs trembled. They moved deeper into the ship. The fighting grew harsher. Enemy soldiers poured through breached doors, their weapons flashing. Sarathis fought like a living storm, her blade cutting arcs of light through the dark. She moved with both grace and power, every strike filled with purpose. Ethan stayed close, his eyes darting everywhere. He was not strong, but he was quick. He spotted danger where others did not. Twice he shouted warnings when enemy fire came from hidden angles, allowing the Queen to raise her guard in time. At one point, an enemy slipped past the Queen and charged at her back. Ethan reacted without thinking. He swung the blade awkwardly, barely managing to block the strike. The clash jolted his arms, nearly knocking the weapon from his grip, but it bought the Queen a moment. She turned, struck, and ended the threat. Afterward, she glanced at him with surprise. "You do not fight with skill," she said, "but you fight with instinct." "That has value," Ethan panted, his arms aching, but he managed a small smile. "Thanks, I think." The battle dragged on. Every hall became a battlefield, every chamber a test of survival. Ethan's fear never fully left him, but he learned quickly. He realized he didn't need to match the strength of alien warriors. Instead, he used what humans were known for: creativity. He pulled loose wires from walls, causing doors to seal behind enemies. He threw tools to distract opponents at key moments. He even used his small size to crawl through vents and strike from unexpected angles. The Queen noticed. More than once, his strange human trick saved her from danger. Each time, her eyes lingered on him a little longer, as if measuring something new. At last, after hours of fighting, the enemy attack began to falter. Their forces pulled back, retreating toward their own ships. The warship's alarms shifted from urgent red to a calmer tone. The Queen lowered her sword, her chest rising and falling with deep breaths. Around her, her warriors stood victorious. Ethan leaned against the wall, exhausted, his arms heavy from carrying the blade. He had cuts and bruises, but he was alive. Sarathis approached him. Her golden eyes glowed faintly in the dim light. "You did not flee," she said. "You did not break." "I almost did," Ethan admitted, his voice tired but steady. "But I couldn't leave you." The Queen was silent for a long moment. Then slowly she placed her hand on his shoulder. "You have shown courage, human. More than some of my own kind." Ethan blinked in surprise. Praise from her was rare, he knew. He bowed his head slightly. "Thank you." That night after the battle, the Queen summoned him once more. The throne chamber was quiet now, lit by the steady glow of energy crystals. She stood with her armor partly removed, though the forbidden place still pulsed faintly with unstable light. "You fought well today," she said, "but I must know why. You are not one of my people. You owe me nothing. Why risk yourself?" Ethan thought for a moment. "Because I couldn't watch and do nothing. Maybe I don't have your strength, but I have hands and a mind. If I can help, I will. That's what humans do." The Queen studied him. "Your people are strange. Weak in body, yet strong in will. I begin to see why the Coalition values you." Ethan gave a small smile. "We make up for what we lack. That's how we survive." Her eyes softened slightly, though her voice remained firm. "Perhaps. But remember, courage does not erase danger. The heart core remains unstable. If it fails in battle, no human cleverness can save me." Ethan's gaze fell on the faint glow again. His fingers twitched with the urge to help, but he remembered her words. "Not there. Never touch it, I understand," he said quietly. Days passed. The warship sailed onward, carrying scars from the battle. Repairs were made, but whispers spread among the crew. Some Ketheri warriors spoke of the strange human who had stood beside the queen. Some mocked him, others doubted him, but a few began to respect him. Ethan ignored the whispers. He focused on his work, fixing what he could, learning what he could. Yet the memory of the battle stayed with him. The moment when his quick thinking had saved the queen, the way she had placed her hand on his shoulder afterward, and always. In the back of his mind, the forbidden glow called to him. One evening, while working in a repair bay, Ethan overheard two Ketheri soldiers speaking in hushed tones. "The heart core is failing," one said. "The queen hides it, but I have seen the light flicker," the other replied. "If it breaks, her rule ends. The rivals will strike again." Ethan froze, listening. His heart tightened. If the heart core failed, not only would Sarathis fall, but her people might collapse into chaos. He returned to his quarters, his mind racing. She had forbidden him to touch it, and he had promised to obey. Yet promises weighed heavily when lives were at stake. What if the time came when he had to choose between her command and her survival? That night, Ethan dreamed of the battle again. He saw the queen fighting, her armor shattering, the glow of the heart core fading. He saw himself standing helpless, unable to act. He woke with sweat on his brow, his heart pounding. In that moment he knew. A trial was coming. The queen had tested him in battle, but the true test would be greater still. Soon he would have to decide whether to obey her words or defy them to save her life. And either choice would change everything. Ethan Hale walked through the warship corridors, the weight of recent battles pressing on him. He could still feel the tremors of explosions under his boots. Every hallway, every corner seemed alive with tension. The Ketheri warriors moved with their usual precision, yet even they carried unease in their steps. He passed the throne chamber and paused. Inside, Queen Sarathis' armor glowed faintly, the forbidden place still pulsating with unstable light. It was the heart core, the source of both her strength and her vulnerability. Ethan had seen it flicker during battle, and the thought of its collapse haunted him. He remembered her words. "Do not touch it. Never." Yet now the flicker seemed worse. The queen had fought, the ship had survived, but the heart core had endured a strain it had never faced before. Ethan's hands itched. He wanted to help. He wanted to stabilize it, but he knew he could not, at least not without permission. Later that day, Sarathis summoned him to the chamber. Her steps echoed as she approached, her armor gleaming under the soft lights. Ethan bowed. "You have proven your worth," she said. "You stood in battle when humans are not expected to survive, and yet you acted with courage." Ethan nodded. "I did what I could, but the heart core, I saw it flicker again. It's unstable. If it fails..." She held up a hand. "You will not speak of touching it, not yet. It is dangerous for anyone unbonded to the core, but..." Her golden eyes studied him carefully. "I will allow you to see it closer, to learn. But you must follow my instructions to the letter." Ethan's heart leapt. "I will, Your Majesty." Sarathis led him to the side of the throne where the armor rested on a support frame. The heart core pulsed with a dim, living light. Ethan could feel it even from a short distance. It seemed to breathe, rhythmically expanding and contracting under its armored casing. "This is the heart core," she said softly. "It is not only part of my armor, it is part of me. It holds the essence of my line, the strength of my ancestors. When it falters, I falter. When it fails, my people are lost." Ethan leaned closer, his eyes wide. He had never seen technology and life intertwined so completely. Every pulse seemed alive, every flicker like a heartbeat. "You may inspect it," she continued, "but no hand may touch the forbidden section without my guidance. Do you understand?" "I understand," Ethan said firmly. Over the next several hours, Sarathis guided him step by step. She explained how the heart core connected to the rest of the armor, how its energy channels flowed like arteries, and how each node reinforced her strength. Ethan asked questions and she answered without frustration. He realized that the heart core was both a weapon and a shield, a piece of living history. Every queen before her had carried one, and it had never failed until now. The recent battle had pushed it beyond its normal limits. Ethan carefully studied the surrounding nodes, making notes in his mind. He could not touch the forbidden section, but he could work on the auxiliary circuits around it. He adjusted some connections and stabilized energy lines, careful not to disrupt the core. Sarathis watched him closely. "You are clever, human. You see patterns that even my engineers miss. Ethan felt a swell of pride tempered with fear. I just want to help. Her expression softened slightly. And that is why you may earn the right to touch it someday. Perhaps, but trust must be earned and understanding must come before action. The calm did not last long. A communication alert blared from the ship's console. A rival fleet had been detected near the Coalition's supply routes. The enemy had regrouped faster than expected. Sarathas's gaze hardened. We will face them soon. If the heart core falters in battle again, it could cost lives. I must be certain it will hold. Ethan felt the tension rise again. The thought of the core failing while she led her warriors made his stomach tighten. But he knew he had a role to play. Humans were small, not strong, not trained for war. But cleverness, innovation, and courage could make a difference. Sarathas turned to him. Ethan Hale, you have been brave in battle. You have repaired what others could not. Soon you will witness the full trial of the heart core. Be ready, Ethan swallowed. Yes, Your Majesty. The following day, drills began. The Queen's warriors moved through the ship, practicing formations and defensive tactics. Ethan worked beside the engineers, stabilizing systems that could support the heart core indirectly. Though he could not touch it directly, his adjustments improved the armor's overall resilience. Sarathas tested him further. She set up simulations of attacks, with sparring warriors striking at weak points of the armor. Ethan had to react quickly, using tools, energy lines, and engineering tricks to keep the heart core stable. At first, he made mistakes. Sparks flew, circuits overloaded, and minor shocks rattled his hands. But with each error, he learned. By the end of the day, his solutions had become smooth, precise, almost instinctive. The Queen observed silently, then finally nodded. You are learning, human. Perhaps one day I will allow you to touch the core. Perhaps. Ethan's chest swelled with pride, tempered by awe. Even the smallest praise from the legendary warrior queen felt monumental. That evening, after the drills, Sarathas led him to a quiet observation deck. Outside, stars stretched endlessly. The warship floated like a silver arrow in the void, and distant fleets glimmered like scattered jewels. You have learned much, she said, her voice softer than usual. You see not just metal and energy, but connections, flows, weaknesses, and strength. You are unusual, human. I try, Ethan replied with a faint smile. I just want to understand. I want to help you and your people. She turned her gaze to the glowing heart core again. Understanding is the first step. Trust is the second. Action comes last. You are close but not yet ready. One wrong move and all we worked for could fail. Ethan nodded. He could feel the truth in her words. Courage alone was not enough. Respect, care, and patience were required. I will be ready, he said firmly. Sarathas studied him a long moment. Then she placed a hand briefly on his shoulder, a gesture of acknowledgement. Good. You are learning the way of the Cathari and perhaps the way of humanity as well. Ethan felt a warmth he had never expected. He was not just a human engineer anymore. He was a participant in something greater, a bond forming between alien queen and human that had never existed before. The next challenge came sooner than either expected. Scouts reported enemy ships closing in rapidly. The rival fleet had learned the coalition's routes and aimed to strike before reinforcements arrived. Sarathas gathered her council, her warriors standing in perfect formation. Ethan observed, analyzing systems, watching for weak points. When the Queen issued commands, he noticed connections that could be improved, energy flows that could be stabilized. He shared his suggestions carefully. Some were met with skepticism. Others were tested in simulation and confirmed. Slowly, the Cathari began to see his value, not as a fighter but as a thinker, a problem solver. When the time came for battle, Ethan would stand by the Queen again. Not in the front line with a blade, but as a mind guiding the armor's strength, supporting the heart core from the outside, ready to act if the forbidden section faltered. He understood now what she had meant by trust. The heart core could not be touched recklessly, but it could be supported, reinforced, and protected with careful thought. And that night, as the warship prepared for the next confrontation, Ethan realized something extraordinary. Humans were fragile. Yes, but cleverness, courage, and patience could bend even impossible odds. He felt pride not in strength, but in purpose. The Queen trusted him now in a small way, and he would not betray that trust. For the heart core, for the Queen, and for the countless lives that depended on it. Ethan Hale would stand ready. The warship trembled under the force of enemy fire. Alarms blared, red lights flashing across the corridors, echoing the chaos of the incoming attack. Ethan Hale gripped his tool case and took a deep breath. This was it. The moment that would test everything he had learned about courage, ingenuity, and trust. Queen Sarathis stood at the center of the command deck, her armor glinting under the flashing lights. The heart core pulsed faintly, its glow flickering with every blast that shook the ship. Ethan's heart raced. The core had held steady so far, but he knew it could falter at any moment. Sarathis's eyes met his. Ethan Hale, today, the trial is not only of strength but of bond. Stand ready, watch carefully, act wisely. Ethan nodded. He had learned much, but the coming battle would require more than knowledge. It would demand ingenuity, precision, and a steady hand. Qualities humans often relied on when their bodies could not compete. The enemy struck with unmatched speed. Boarding teams breached the ship's hull and alien soldiers poured into the corridors. Explosions rattled the steel, and sparks flew from damaged consoles. Sarathis raised her great blade, moving like a storm through the enemy lines. Ethan followed at a cautious distance, holding his tool case tightly. He was not strong enough to fight like her, but he could support her in ways no one else could. He observed the armor, the energy lines, the subtle flickers of the heart core. Each pulse was a signal, each glow a warning. When an enemy soldier darted toward Sarathis from a side corridor, Ethan reacted. He threw a small stabilizer tool onto the floor near the core's energy nodes. Sparks arced harmlessly, but the sudden burst redirected the energy, protecting the core from the strike. The Queen noticed and glanced back. "You understand," she said, her voice sharp, but approving. Ethan swallowed. "I do. I'll keep it stable." The battle escalated. The enemy was relentless, their numbers overwhelming. Sarathis's warriors fought with precision, but even they struggled under the force of the assault. The Queen moved to intercept a group targeting the heart core directly. Ethan followed, adjusting auxiliary circuits, rerouting energy flows, and reinforcing shields wherever he could. One enemy struck directly at the forbidden section. The core flickered violently, threatening to fail. Ethan's mind raced. He could not touch it. Sarathis's warning rang in his ears, but he could act around it. Quickly, he reconfigured the support circuits, diverting energy to stabilize the core's outer nodes. Sparks flew, consoles overloaded, but the heart core steadied, glowing brighter than before. Sarathis felt the difference immediately, and her movements became sharper, stronger, more confident. "You did well," she said in passing, striking down her opponents. Ethan panted, adrenaline coursing through him. "We're not done yet," he muttered. The enemy leader appeared next, a massive warrior clad in dark spiked armor. His weapon gleamed like black fire. The Queen and he locked eyes, and Ethan could feel the tension in the air. This was the final strike. Sarathis advanced, and Ethan stayed close, watching the core's pulse. The enemy aimed directly at it, striking with deadly precision. The heart core flickered again, more violently than ever. Ethan realized that this time, his quick adjustments alone might not be enough. He thought fast. Humans were known for thinking differently, for finding solutions where others saw none. He scanned the energy patterns, remembered the layouts, and spotted a way to redirect power without touching the core. With careful timing, he rerouted the energy flow through the outer nodes, creating a temporary shield of pure kinetic energy around the forbidden section. Sparks shot outward. Circuits glowed, but the core remained unharmed. Sarathis noticed the sudden stabilization. Her blade swung with perfect precision, striking the enemy leader and disarming him. With a final, powerful strike, she ended the threat. The battle was over. Silence fell across the deck. Smoke and sparks drifted in the air. Ethan dropped to his knees, exhausted. He had never felt so drained, so alive, so fulfilled. He had followed the Queen's command, acted carefully, and yet saved her and the ship in ways no one else could. Sarathis approached him, her great sword sheathed. The heart core pulsed steadily, glowing brighter than it had in days. She extended her hand, not to strike, but to acknowledge. "You did it," she said. "You protected what none but a queen could protect. You are no longer merely human to me. You are trusted." Ethan stood slowly, feeling a mix of relief and pride. I only did what I could," he said, voice trembling slightly. Sarathas's golden eyes softened. "That is the measure of true courage, not the strength to strike, but the strength to act wisely when all eyes are on you." The queen studied him for a long moment. Then she placed a hand briefly on his shoulder. The gesture was light, but it carried weight. No human has ever earned the right to be this close to the hardcore and survive. You have done what many of my own warriors could not. Ethan felt warmth rise in his chest. He had come from a quiet world, a simple engineer, and now he had earned the respect of a legendary warrior. Humans were fragile, yes, but clever, courageous, and willing to act when it mattered. The aftermath of the battle was filled with activity. Repairs were made, systems checked, and reports sent to Coalition Command. But for Ethan, the most important moment was personal. He walked beside Sarathas as she inspected the heart core. "See," she said. "It holds steady now. Your guidance, your careful observation, it made this possible." Ethan nodded. "I only followed what I learned from you, Your Majesty. You taught me how to watch, how to understand. I just applied it." Her expression softened. "Yes, that is what humans do. We fight with strength. You fight with thought. Together we can be unstoppable." For the first time, Ethan felt a true bond forming, not just respect, but trust and partnership. He realized that humans, though small and often underestimated, could contribute in ways that even the most powerful aliens could not imagine. Days later, the Queen called him to the throne chamber once more. Her armor was repaired fully now, the heart core steady, glowing proudly. "You have learned well, human," she said. "You understand not only the machinery of armor but the pulse of life within it. You have earned the right to be at my side." Ethan bowed, overwhelmed. "I am honored, Your Majesty." "Do not confuse honor with trust lightly earned," she replied. "It must be maintained. But today you have proven that humans can walk among the strongest and emerge respected. That is rare." Ethan smiled, understanding. He had started as a simple engineer, sent to repair armor he barely understood. Along the way he had faced fear, learned discipline, acted with precision, and ultimately earned the trust of a warrior queen. Humans were fragile, yes, but in the vastness of space, courage, ingenuity, and the willingness to act when it mattered made them special. The story ended not with a battle cry but with quiet acknowledgement. The heart core pulsed steadily. The Queen stood tall, her warriors around her, and Ethan Hale stood beside her, not as a servant, not as a weak human, but as a trusted ally. The galaxy was vast, the enemies numerous, and the challenges endless. Yet for the first time, both alien and human saw the value in unity, in cleverness, in trust forged through action. Ethan looked at the Queen, and she looked back. No words were needed. They had faced the trial together and they had emerged stronger, proof that humans, small as they seemed, could rise to greatness when courage and intelligence guided their actions. The warship sailed onward, stars stretching endlessly beyond its hull. And somewhere in the vast galaxy, a human and an alien queen had formed a bond that would be remembered for generations, a bond built on respect, trust, and the courage to act when it mattered most.